Korchak Society is doing until today is summer camps. So summer camps, each of us, is there anyone who never visited a summer camp? So you know in your experience, and I'm sure it's different, yeah? So summer camps, Korchakian way, first of all, in the Soviet times, every Soviet child would go to a summer camp, period. I mean, each. And this is when you go outside the city, you spend 3 weeks somewhere in the countryside. If you are lucky, you have good conditions. If you are not lucky, you have green toilets and, and bites everywhere. But you have fun. There are people around you. You have camp leaders, and you have team leaders for every group, right? So the idea of a Korchakian camp is similar but different. Similar, yes, going out of the city, staying somewhere else. What is different, that is the different structure. And because the structure is different, it creates a very different atmosphere. So what is different is that idea of families. So every group of children is put together, 8 to 10 children. They are from different ages, from 3, 5, 3 is the youngest and rarely, but usually from 5 to 14, and they are one family. As he was talking about total strangers, Sam, yeah, are becoming family. So apparently, when you treat kids the right way and you structure and do activities, in a few days you really create a family. So you have 8 to 10 kids of different ages. They support each other. The one who is 12 becomes really old and senior and able to take care, or 14 is almost an adult. And there are parents. There's a mother and a father. And the mother and the father are those young team leaders, usually students, teachers in training. And they play this role as parents. And the family lives together, and they take care of each other, and they have a lot of different activities, but there are also activities for the whole camp. And one of the activities, there are different, many ones, it's Korchak, and that means they have a day of memory of Korchak, and they usually celebrate Korchak's birthday in July, when Korchak really was born. And so his birthday they celebrate very special way. And there are many other traditions. I never mentioned this when I spoke about authorial schools, but the word tradition, it's not Fiddler on the Roof. Remember, tradition, but it's not, but it is, because traditions are extremely important. And if you are part of a friendly family, a family which supports you, and you start thinking about your family, each family has certain traditions. So creating traditions within one family and then within one camp is very, very important. And then repetitively, like doing it each year when kids come. What is happening, interestingly, kids who first come as campers, as young kids, then come as team leaders, as parents. And there are those who keep coming, and the camp this year was number 27. So they do it every year. Then they started doing winter camps as well. Behind the scenes, the person who is the center of it is Professor Dimakova, who is 81 years old, who was at the Korchak conference in August, who recently wrote to me there will be a Korchak conference, Jane, by the way, in Israel at the end of November. Do you know this? Judith, do you know this? And she wrote to me saying, I plan to go. So, I mean, age is absolutely not an obstacle when your spirit and your soul and your heart is young. So they have all these traditions which create this contagious, positive atmosphere of the camp. I'm not going to translate everything because I don't think really you need it. It's a 5-minute video which you would see the camp life, but if you want me to translate something, just put down a note for yourself and we come back, okay? It's 5 minutes. It's in Russian, but you would see the spirit, I hope. But if you don't, just let me know. So it says Korchak Camp, our... Nash Dom means our house, our home.
Он собирает летом под своей крышей около 100 детей, маленьких и взрослых, разных рас и национальностей, детей-сирот и инвалидов, здоровых детей из полных, многодетных и неполных семей.
Who is for you Janusz Korczak?
Janusz Korczak, это, мне кажется, отправной пункт, это вот именно центр, от которого как бы люди отталкиваются.
What I didn't tell you, the camp became integrated. So they started as a camp for healthy kids only, physically healthy, and then they started bringing kids with different disabilities and healthy kids, plus kids who are orphans as well. So they bring kids from wealthy families, from middle-class families, from poor families, disadvantaged children who are orphans, and children who have physical disabilities. Among camp leaders, there are also young adults with disabilities. So you would say it. Now they are taking an interview from campers and leaders what Korczak means for you. And this one, for example, here you would see the number of years. He's saying, I started coming to the camp since I was 6 years old. And you see he's a little older than 6 now. So he's now a leader. He's a parent, if you wish. Okay?
Это тот трамплин, который дает как бы людям понять мир более как-то шире, не узко, а шире.
He's saying Korczak is a whole world, and he serves as a bridge which allows a person to get on this bridge and to see the world wider than normally.
Душу ребенка, понять душу вожатого.
And he also allows to understand the soul of the adult who is a leader and also the soul of a child. And this girl is blind.
Который вообще придумал все то, что здесь есть. То есть он придумал права, он придумал то, что здесь говорят.
Korczak is the person who created this whole thing, everything which is happening here, she says. And then she said, Korczak actually created the rights of the children.
Правда, придумал то, что у нас есть там какое-то право говорить хочу, не хочу.
And he created the right for us to say, I want it, I don't want it.
Не знаю, мне кажется, он такой добрый человек, что у него столько там разных эмоций.
I think he's so kind, he's so full of different emotions. And look at her face, how happy she is. Not every kid is happy in the camp.
Ну, просто его знаем, мы любим, я не знаю даже как.
I can't even tell you how much we love Korczak.
Назвать его.
Основатель лагеря, точнее, у него было 2 дома. Один детский дом, другой наш дом. Значит, это как раз и есть лагерь.
So that blind also young man is saying that Korczak was the founder of 2 orphanages and he is the founder of our camp. Some kids to the day think that Korczak was alive at the time Korczak camp started in Russia and that he is the founder. This is one of the leaders of the camp who actually started as a girl coming to the camp.
Janusz Korczak это такая мифическая фигура. Вот. Дети думают, что это он сделал лагерь, конечно.
Korchik is kind of a mystical figure, and many kids, she says, think that he's the one who actually created this camp.
Уже придумал его. Вот, и когда мы периодически пишем письма, он пишет: дорогой Корчик, спасибо тебе за наш лагерь.
So children write letters, as you did today. Children write letters, and she is saying, children write letters to Korchik, saying, dear Korchik, thank you for the camp.
Спасибо, что ты делаешь детей счастливыми, ты очень хороший человек.
Thank you for making children feel happy. You are a wonderful person.
Ну, наверное, это, по крайней мере, для меня это человек-планета, такой человек-космос. Он не дает, наверное, конкретных рецептов, он не дает тебе, он не говорит, что именно нужно делать с ребенком. Он как такая путеводная звезда.
So Korchik is not the one who is prescribing exactly what to do. He is like the star which leads you a certain way.
Который говорит о том, на что опираться, когда ты работаешь с детьми, например, во что верить.
He is the fundamental foundation which allows you to build on it to work with children. And Korchik is also, she is saying, the person who creates these ideals, what to believe in.
На что обращать внимание. Вот есть такое понятие, наверное, жить в духе Корчика. Невозможно следовать там правилам всем, там, я не знаю, делать так, как он, потому что сейчас это, все.
You cannot really replicate Korchik because the time is different, but there's a concept, she says, to live in the spirit of Korchik. So that's what we're creating here. Are you okay with watching it like this? Because it could be hard, and I'm translating, but you have to listen to Russian. Are you okay with that?
Мы живем в другом веке совсем, да, дети другие, правила другие, но быть в духе Корчика, вот всегда смотреть, а как это соотносится с уважением?
It is difficult now to reconstruct what Korchik did, she says, because we live in a different time, different society, children are different, but to create, oh, what happened? I pushed something, yeah? But to compare what you are doing with what Korchik could have done is really something which is important for us. Yeah, perfect. Thank you. Stupidity in progress on my part. Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Потому что ты делаешь детей счастливыми, ты очень хороший человек. Ну, наверное, это, по крайней мере, для меня это человек-планета, такой человек-космос. Он не дает, наверное, конкретных рецептов, он не дает тебе, он не говорит, что именно нужно делать с ребенком. Он как такая путеводная звезда, которая говорит о том, на что опираться, когда ты работаешь с детьми, во что верить, на что обращать внимание. Вот есть такое понятие, наверное, жить в духе Корчика. Невозможно следовать там правилам всем, там, я не знаю, делать так, как он, потому что
Look at the eyes.
Все равно мы живем в другом веке совсем, да,
Just
другие правила,
shining.
но быть в духе Корчика, вот, всегда смотреть, а как это соотносится с уважением, а использовал ли я диалог, могу ли я простить ребенка.
So to live in the spirit of Korchik means to, in Russian you call it clean yourself under Korchik, like to follow in his shoes, to follow in his steps, and to realize whether you are doing it right or not. And for her, she says, that is whether I respect the children and whether I make them feel happy. And do I talk with children as an equal one?
С одной стороны символ, с другой стороны это такая миссия.
So Korchik for me, she said, and she started coming to the camp in 2006. And she said, for me, it's a symbol of many, many things together. Korchik is a great man. What I didn't say, these green ties, all of them, I think I mentioned that. Our home had their own flag, and the flag was green with a clover leaf. And the idea of green is that green is the color of hope, So in the camp always they have these green ties and they have the flag as well.
У которого было свое мнение о ребенке, которое он развивал, может, это в каком-то смысле отец детей.
Korchak had his own opinion of the children, and in some sense, he is a father of all children. He is a blind kid.
Ну, конечно, если бы не было его, не было бы лагеря.
If not for Korchak, we never had this camp.
Это человек для лагеря, но он основатель детского дома, который назывался «Наш дом». И вот из-за этого назвали наш лагерь «Наш».
So here on their t-shirts it says 20 years our home. And he's saying because of Korchak, who founded the orphanage which was called Our Home, our campus called Our Home.
Есть яркий пример жизни одного человека, который можно преподнести детям.
That is what we were talking about. Every kid needs a champion. So he's been leading the camp since 2009, and he's saying this is an exemplar. Well, in American and Canadian psychology, there is a term moral exemplar. So that's exactly what he's talking about. He is a moral exemplar who we can introduce to children as an incredible personality and for them to know such people existed.
Легенды как данность это было от
Like, it's not just a legend, although Korchak became a legend, but that was a real person.
человека.
Integration, and that's about children with different...
Это было единственное несколько в моей жизни, то есть единственный случай в моей жизни, когда
So 1994-98, he was a camp leader.
столкнулся с людьми, у которых есть какие-то ограничения.
Это, пожалуй,
He's saying, for me, it was for the first time ever in my life when I met with people who had some physical disabilities.
одна из самых интересных вещей, потому что как бы есть, когда принимают, а иногда и не принимают, или пытаются принять, или в какой-то степени там, не совсем могут, как бы детей или даже взрослых с разными ограниченными возможностями, с ограничениями здоровья. Несколько лет.
So she's saying that living her life as a blind person, she experienced many times that there are children and adults who are trying to accept, but they can't, they don't. And here she first time experiences this full acceptance.
Приезжала вожатая девочка на коляске. И у меня весь лагерь меня не покидал.
So she's been a camp leader since 2004.
When was this movie?
Last year.
Last year.
Last year. So she's talking about a camp leader who was in a wheelchair, and she's saying that she had this girl had a feeling that that camp leader in a wheelchair was more important for the kids than it was important for that camp leader in a wheelchair, that for everyone else to experience being with a person in a wheelchair was more important even than for her herself.
Мысль о том, что нахождение Маши в лагере было важнее для лагеря, чем для Маши.
And this is a day, like memory day about Korchak. And that's how they celebrate it in the evening. The one with the guitar is the son of Rosa Valeva, who is the president of Korchak Association of Russia, and he's composing this one, Timur. He's been in the camp for many years, and he's composing music and lyrics. So this is a song which is like a camp song. And see the flag. Beautiful, right? And this last one, this is not a mother and a child. This is a camp leader and a child who in this situation is her child. And I always think, like I was telling you about the hospital, when young adults go through this kind of situation, they become different people. This whole idea of empathy and care, to me it's like the thickness of the skin. I think in young people it's still thinner than, you know what I mean? And you can go through easier, faster than with the people who are mature. And when you deal with young adults who are future teachers or teachers today or future medical workers or social workers, and they're young, and you put them in the situation like this, then they're more sensitive. They get it easier and faster. And because of it, I think it's extremely important. Okay, this is it. I apologize that it's in Russian, but there was no way to do this, you know, subtitles. I mean, I probably could have, but it would be too much. What did you get from this movie? Other than my translation, of course, which was brilliant, clearly.
Clearly has a profound effect on everybody who's involved.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that they come back year after year and then they become counselors. I mean, I've once been involved in something similar. But it's amazing, the loyalty and the roots.
In fact, Irina Dimakova, in her article, which is in English, and I will give it to you, each of you, she's talking about the idea was to have it once. I think not Irina, but also, but both articles, you'll have it. And so to have it once to try, and this is it. And when they came back to Moscow, right on the platform, leaving the train, kids were saying, what is the next one? How can I, get the information I want to sign for the next one? And that's how it started working, and it's, the loyalty is the correct word, especially when you realize they come as kids and then they start coming as adults, and that's something they cherish. And there's this special unity among these young people. I know the first campers, they are now maybe 45. They are very different people. They still are so young in spirit, It's pretty crazy how you can keep your young spirit as if you are 20. I spoke with one of them, her name is Tatiana as well, and once she mentioned a funny situation. She said she was at the doctor's office, and the nurse asked her, how old are you? And she said, I'm 30. And then she said, wait a second, no, I'm 40. And it was not to hide the fact. It just emotional. She felt that, and she said it out loud and then realized, no, the fact is wrong, but the feeling is there. So what else? Yeah, I mean,
the inclusion, having everybody, no matter who they are, actually it's a principle that they are using now in schools where they include everybody, and it was already done then, and I think it's a great idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think those children in the video, they actually know more about culture. Like they know more than adults, and then they really do with their action, and they do create like legacy of culture.
But do you think it's very important to learn every detail about Korshik's life, or there's something else which is more important?
I think what they do are more important.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked it when one of them said the spirit.
Yeah.
And then I was like, yeah, I think that it changes, that history is changing, that our knowledge is changing, that context is different, but that if we carry that spirit, I think that's what needs to be carried.
Yeah, I agree with that. Sigrid?
I don't think we need to learn everything about Korchak. I do agree that I feel like for me what was kind of big about Korchak is he did this in the situation that he was in at the time that he was in.
Mm-hmm.
But now where I think he had an accelerated kind of evolution in this idea while the rest of us are kind of slowly going into it now.
Mm-hmm.
Because even the fact that we have people who've never heard of Korchak do things like this kind of, I guess the words organically is.
And you pronounce the name exactly.
Oh,
yeah.
I had a great teacher. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Judith.
The summer camp is an environment that you can better do it, better be caring and inclusive than probably in the school, because the teacher needs some kind of authority, and it's in kind of a conflict with the...
You tempt me to share my environment in a camp, which was very different. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
But there is a better opportunity to be like a family or a supportive and caring camp, like the elder children. The school is a different environment because of the need for the authority of the teacher. It cannot be both, being this caring and family kind of environment. So that's why you had a different experience.
Not in a Korchak camp.
Yeah.
But in a summer camp when I was a child.
Kids have a good experience with
Yeah,
camps.
I agree. Did any of you have bad experience in a camp? Amita?
I hated camp. I hated it.
Why?
I was not comfortable. I felt like a complete outsider. I don't belong. And all I did was asking my parents to bring me back because I couldn't understand it. So I went once and I never went again.
We'll live through it. What I'm saying is, what they create in this Korchak summer camp is absolutely unique, which allows not only children who are physically healthy, who are disabled, but also children from different layers of the society, including children who are Jewish, to openly say, I am Jewish. And the person who is our symbol and spirit, he was Jewish too. Most of the kids in this camp are not Jewish. They're Russian kids. Russian, I mean, living in Russia and being Slavic. So that's another great achievement which happens in this camp, because kids who live like this, they would never, I hope, become anti-Semites. They would never become those who would say, I don't, as is happening, I don't want my child to be in the same classroom with this kid who is in a wheelchair because I don't think it's healthy for my child. And I told you that these blind kids, when they were part of this camp, after the camp was over, they started walking. You notice when they speak, they look down. They look down. But after the camp, when they came home, they were first time ever raising their heads. Isn't it a great achievement? I mean, how many educators can say, I did it? Very few. So that's really remarkable what Irina is doing. I want to show you her presentation, her PowerPoint presentation. It doesn't have words, it's just photos. And we'll do it real quick, but you'll get the impression what it is. Plus, I promised I will show it. We wanted to do it like online not it. We wanted to do like online presentation, but you know, she doesn't speak English. It wouldn't make sense, really. It would be a torture with all the translation. So this is our home, And this, the last one says the Institute of Childhood, and the abbreviation is Moscow Pedagogical State University. So that is Irina, who I was talking about. So look at this woman. She's 81. Look at the eyes. Well, when Lillian was talking about Korchak's eyes, I was thinking, look at Irina's eyes. And she still works full-time as department chair. Yeah. So look at that. Look how she looks at the kids. And if I tell you this woman went through so many misfortunes and so many tragedies in her own life, you wouldn't believe it. And that's her private life I'm not going to share. But what I'm saying is it's not like she's so extremely, supported everywhere and with everything. No, she had a lot of real tragedies in life. So this guy, Theo Capone, he turned 81 in July. He is one of the biggest Korchakians in Europe. He is in Amsterdam. He was president of Korchak Association of the Netherlands. He's not anymore president, but he's very, very active. And at some point, he was married to a Russian young woman. Then things happened. But he even speaks Russian a little. And he's a big supporter of Irina's camp, and because of that, they started Dutch Korchak camp afterwards, because some of the Russian young women moved to Amsterdam, and with their help and Theo's camp, they started Dutch camp. So you see, this girl is blind. This is Masha. They were talking about this camp leader in a wheelchair. So kids are doing crazy things, At home, mom would say, "What are you doing? Put down, sit at the table, have your dinner. Or do your homework." So that's Irina here to the left. And next to her, that young woman who was talking about the spirit, the camp leader. That one above is that stone. In Polish, it's Janusz Korczak I Dzieci, which is Janusz Korczak and children. Yeah, that is in Treblinka. So then they started having winter camps. And see, they even have like small tattoos of that clover leaf. And these are camp leaders, and with these younger kids on their shoulders, on their backs. I mean, imagine if all fathers in the world could treat their own children this way. Children would have had such a happy childhood. This is called the Island of Happiness. And they're talking about Korczak, what he did, and that last kind of box, that is the rights of the children. That's some creative activity together. Oh, look at that. That's a camp leader and one of the kids, right? And they do have what regular camps would not have, like late evening activities, because kids love it in the dark with the candle oil around the fire. It's mysterious, it's romantic, it's something different, and they're doing it. So this is it. You got the impression, I hope, yeah? So it's 2:40. My suggestion is we work another half an hour and I let you go instead of having a break. But if you need to go out, to go to the place which Russians don't talk about, you can go, okay? So I think I owe you to finally read the prayer of the teacher. I want you to listen carefully and tell me what you feel about it, how you feel, what do you think is so special in this prayer. This is, remember I told you, he wrote this little book which is called The Prayers of Those Who Don't Pray. I mean, the title by itself is incredible, right? So this is called, what Lillian was reading was kind of a poem, but same thing. But this is the actual text translated into English. The school teacher's prayer. I will not send you long prayers, O God, nor countless sighs. I will not bow low before you or make rich offerings in praise of your glory. I have no wish to win your favors or solicit lofty gifts. My thoughts have no wings which could bear my song to heaven. My words are without color or scent or flowers. I'm tired and heavy-eyed. My sight is dimmed and my back bent under the heavy burden of duty. And yet I will send one heartfelt request, O God. I have one gem which I will not entrust to fellow men. I fear man will not understand, will not sympathize, will not pay heed, will laugh it off. In my silent humility, you may barely notice me, but in my request, I stand before you, God, as a demand of fire. I may whisper inaudibly, but I make my appeal in a voice of unbending will. My commanding eye takes aim beyond the clouds. Standing tall, I make my demand, as it is not just for me. Give children good fortune, lend help to their efforts, and blessings for their hardships. Lead them not down the easiest paths, but the most beautiful. And as a down payment of my request, accept my only asset, sadness. Sadness and work. That's it. What do you think? What's your first impression?
Well, sadness knowing that's not the case. Like that's not going to happen.
Yeah, that nothing will happen. Nothing good. They will all perish. Yeah. Do you think he had hope to the very last moment?
I don't think so. It's you have to be very blind not to
And
realize.
naive, yeah. Okay. Who wants to say? It's totally fine, Alicia. Yeah. You want to say something? No? Who wants to say, I mean, how you feel about this prayer? Have you ever heard anything like this? What kind of a personality will write it? I mean, what would you say, judging, if you didn't know anything, what would you say?
Hopeless hope.
Hopeless hope, yeah. Yeah, yeah.
That's a good response.
Same thing?
Yeah, I was kind of trying to figure that out. Yeah, that's a good way to say it.
Yeah, hopeless hope. Yeah, green, yeah, green.
Run. Just kidding.
Alice, what do you think?
So in China, we have a saying that there are some people always looking for hope in desperate situation. And I think that's the feeling I got from the poetry. It's like it's giving me a really very heavy, maybe feel very heavy, very unease, but definitely I feel there definitely still have hope.
I want to ask you about this uneasy feeling because, do you hear me well, or would you prefer if I use a microphone? You okay? I wanted to tell you my own experience from one of my earlier conferences which I participated in Japan. And in Japan, the culture, of course, is very different and was very new for me. So I'm in the field of moral education and moral psychology, especially at that time I was very heavily involved in that. So we had moral educators and moral psychologists from all over the world at that conference, but the major part of the group was moral educators and psychologists from Japan. And they were sharing their experience. So here's a school principal from a middle school that is, he was talking about 6th graders, so I'm thinking 12-year-old kids. And remember I said Lawrence Kolbeck? So Lawrence Kolbeck, one of his major ideas is moral dilemmas and how people react to them, and etc. So a school principal from a middle school talking about 6th graders, he gave us an example of a moral dilemma. And all of us from Europe and US were like deaf, dumb, and numb, because I could never imagine that a story like this would be given to 12-year-olds. And then we started discussing it, and for the Japanese group, it was like absolutely okay, talking about cultural misunderstanding. So let me give you a story, and I want you to process it. So the teacher in the class would tell this story to the kids and then discuss it with the students. Here's the story. A hospice. The setting is exactly for the children, 12-year-olds, right? A hospice, and many beds in the room. And only one bed is next to the window. And the window is always blocked with, not with the blinds, but dark curtains which are never open. And the only person who is next to the window can see what's happening outside. And because of that, this bed next to the window is considered the most prestigious bed. But you cannot get this bed until the person who is in this bed dies. And then you are the next who is going to die soon will get this bed. So the whole, we're talking about a dilemma, a moral dilemma, which is given the students who are 12 years old in Japanese schools. So, so the whole room of terminally sick people are dependent on the one who is next to the window, because they're not allowed or they can't walk. So he is the only one who can look behind and tell them, oh, the sun is shining, I see the flowers, I see the birds, I see the boys walking, or something like that. So he's connecting them with the world outside. So, and each day, that's the culmination of the day, when they hear the story, what's behind the curtains. And they're specifically not allowed, for whatever reason, to open the curtains. And finally, for the person who is waiting, he's the next one. The one who is next to the window is gone. And they put this one, who is waiting, on this bed. And he is beyond words happy. And he looks behind the curtain. And he sees a brick wall. There's no window. It's a wall. And this is a story which the 6-year-olds are supposed to discuss. In sixth graders, sorry. Yeah, they are 12. They're supposed to discuss. And when I raised the question of, really, is it for this age to discuss the issues like this? And the school principal was so serious, he said, of course, the matter of death, the concept of death, the experience should be understood at an early age. I was blown away at the time. So what do you think? Because Korchak brought it to the children. I mean, he couldn't, but they saw it every day walking in the streets of Warsaw Ghetto. They saw dead bodies right there on the streets, right? But that was a cruel necessity. Children living in Japan today, I mean, there's no cruel necessity to make them think and talk about, well, that was in a good school, in a good, yeah, there are earthquakes and hurricanes and all this. True, but still. So what do you think?
It depends on how we view death. In some culture, death is just
continuation of life.
Next step, so it's not scary.
Okay. Jenny.
Well, I would put it another way. I am at the other end of life, and I see...
What does that mean?
It means I've got way more behind my life than I have left.
Well, you never know. You know.
Even pushing it. But I have many friends who have never talked about death, who, the older they get, the more terrified they get, the more they shut down. It's not as if we don't know about it from a very early age, one way or another. And I just see the negative impact in North American society, which is really the only one I can talk about legitimately, where you don't talk about it. Parents don't talk to the children, children don't talk to parents, grandparents. And I mean, we talked last week about toxic culture. I think it's toxic. I think the way you do it is all, as you said, it's all, that's the most important thing. But I think children ask questions about death when they're 3.
Yeah. Is that really about death?
It's what?
About, like, I don't really see that as being all about death, that scenario. That's about, yeah, no, I get that that's the concept, but.
So what do you think, Claire?
Well, it's about hope and about life and seeing life in even the most, sort of.
So the person who is next to this brick wall and talking about the sun, the sky, the birds, the boys running, what do you think? I mean, and what is interesting in this story is every next person would never say there's no window, yeah? This next person would keep talking about...
And they're giving these people this life, this hope.
Hope. So that's not about death, it's about life, yeah, to the very last moment. Yeah, to the very last moment.
Well, in the end of that, just of what I was talking about is, I think a healthy awareness of death brings a true appreciation for living, which is what you're saying.
Would you agree with that?
And if you don't ever talk about it, then it's always like...
It goes back to what we've been talking about of trying to shield children from the reality when they're actually already living that reality and denying them that opportunity. So I think it's great that that was part of Japanese culture.
Okay. Okay. Who wants to talk about this? Yeah.
I actually read that story when I was 10
you did?
in China.
When you were when?
Well, yeah, I read the same story.
At what age?
10.
10.
Yeah, and then read it in like children's magazine in China, and then but the
same story.
the same story, but ending is a little bit different. So the ending is like the second person moved to the bed by the window, and then he just peek around and see there's like just brick wall, and he just shouted, "Oh, there's nothing outside," and then everybody knows. So that story actually I remember we had discussion in class, and then teacher was asking us like, what do you think if you are the second person moved to the window, what will you do? And then our conclusion is that we will never tell like other people, because sometimes white line, people need white line to make like they need hope to keep living. So even though you know,
How interesting.
yeah. So I think it's a great topic to share with the young children, because sometimes they need to know like some honesty we really appreciate, but it's not the best solution in certain cases. So,
Wonderful, thank you. Secret, as a teacher, what do you think?
I didn't see a problem with it for 12-year-olds, like in general, like because it's like as someone said before, like if we're going to treat children like they're as equals rather than as property or anything less than human, then how we do it is a different question. But I think the topic in itself, it's a part of life.
Excellent. So we need to talk about different topics, but maybe think and definitely consider what way we talk about it, not to scare,
And
right?
these like, depending on where they come from, they could have experienced a death with their great grandparents or their grandparents or friends. Even you don't know their history too.
Or
so,
cat.
Or
Okay.
cat. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Or a bird.
Or dead ants, yeah,
yeah.
as pets, yeah.
But it just reminds me of another story, a short story, The Last Leaf,
Yeah.
with the brick wall. Somebody's,
yeah.
you know this story.
Yeah.
So then somebody's painting a leaf or a tree on the wall to keep the patient looking out the window with a hope.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
Oh, no,
Okay.
no.
I don't remember the name. The Last Leaf? That
I
was-
don't remember, but I remember the idea, the message,
Yeah.
the message.